Howdy, hello, and welcome to our 11th podcast episode. An ordinary family man unleashes his deadly past to protect those he loves. I'm Timothy, and as always, here with me, my friend Thomas. Tonight, we are going to talk about Nobody. As always, spoilers ahead. Nobody is a 2020 One American action thriller film directed by Ilya Naishuller. The film follows Hutch Mansell, a mild-mannered family man who returns to his former life as an assassin after he and his family become the target of a vengeful crime lord. Well, Tom, so did you like Nobody?
Well, Tim, I enjoyed it quite a bit. It was a thrilling ride from start to finish, with plenty of action scenes that kept me on the edge of my seat. I thought Bob Odenkirk did an excellent job in his role as Hutch Mansell, really showing off his versatility as an actor. The story was engaging and had some nice twists and turns throughout. While it wasn't groundbreaking by any means, it was a fun film that delivered what I expect from an action thriller.
I have to admit that I found it passable, but not much more than that. The story felt a bit predictable and cliched at times, with the whole ordinary man reveals hidden past as skilled killer trope being a bit overdone, in my opinion. That said, there were some well-executed action scenes which kept me entertained enough to keep watching until the end. However, I think the character development could have been stronger and more nuanced. Some of the motivations felt rushed or underdeveloped.
Well, you know, Tim, I can see where you're coming from with that critique, but I believe they wanted to keep the pace of the film fast, paced, and action-packed, instead of focusing too much on character development. Besides, Bob Odenkirk did a great job conveying Hutch's emotional journey through his actions rather than just words. And let's not forget about Christopher Lloyd, who always brings an air of unpredictability to any role he plays.
I agree that Odenkirk and Lloyd did a decent job with their roles. But for me personally, it wasn't enough to make up for what I felt were some shortcomings in the writing department. The film also had some pacing issues. There were times when things felt rushed or dragged on unnecessarily. And while I understand that they were trying to create a thrilling experience, I think a better balance between action and character development could have been achieved without sacrificing the overall feel of the film.
Well, Tim, you know I always appreciate your insightful analysis, but let's not forget that this is just a movie. It's meant to be entertaining rather than an Academy Award-winning masterpiece. Sometimes we need to just sit back and enjoy the ride without overthinking every aspect of it. Besides, if you want deep character development and complex storytelling, there are plenty of other films out there that cater to those tastes. In my opinion, Nobody delivered exactly what it promised. An exciting action thriller with some surprising twists and turns along the way.
Well, Tom, I suppose you have a point there. After all, we both know that this is just a film meant for entertainment and not a deep philosophical exploration. But as someone who has spent quite some time analyzing films and their impact on society, it's hard for me to simply switch off my critical thinking skills when I watch something. So let's talk about the plot of Nobody. The story revolves around Hutch Mansell, a seemingly ordinary man with an extraordinary past. He leads a mundane life as an office worker and tries his best to keep up appearances for his family. However, when two thieves break into their house and he doesn't react the way they expect him to, it sets off a chain of events that reveal his true identity as a former assassin. This revelation puts not only Hutch, but also his family in danger, forcing him to return to his old ways in order to protect them. Now, while I can appreciate the premise and the thrills it provides, there are some aspects of the story that I found somewhat problematic. For instance, how easily Hutch seems to slip back into his assassin persona after years of living a normal life. And what about the motivations behind Yulian Kuznetsov's vendetta against him? These questions make me wonder if perhaps there could have been more depth explored in these characters and their relationships with each other.
Well, Tim, I can understand your concern regarding character development and motivations, but I believe the filmmakers chose to focus on delivering an entertaining action-packed ride rather than delving too deeply into those aspects of the story. Plus, considering the genre we're talking about here, it's not unusual for films like this one to prioritize pace and excitement over character depth. That being said, I do agree that there were some interesting themes at play in Nobody. For example, the idea of an ordinary man leading a double life, one as a family man and another as a lethal assassin, raises questions about identity and the choices we make in life. Additionally, the film touches upon concepts like redemption and the consequences of past actions coming back to haunt us. In conclusion, while I acknowledge that there are certain aspects of Nobody's plot that could have been fleshed out further, I believe it succeeds as an entertaining action thriller that keeps you on the edge of your seat throughout its runtime. And let's not forget about Bob Odenkirk's performance. He really shines in this film and proves that he can handle both comedy and drama with equal skill.
Well, Tom, I have to admit that I found the film entertaining enough, but there were some aspects of it that left me wanting more. But hey, that's just my 2 cents worth. Now, let's talk about something we can both agree on. The soundtrack of Nobody. The movie had an excellent soundtrack, which really helped to enhance the overall experience. What did you think about it?
I completely agree with you, Tim. The soundtrack for Nobody was fantastic. It perfectly captured the tone and energy of the film with a mix of rock, electronic, and orchestral tracks that seamlessly appended to each scene. The use of songs like I'm Waiting by the Union Underground and Rainmaker by Black, Rebel Motorcycle Club added an extra layer of intensity to the action sequences, while slower tracks like Tiny Cities Made of Ashes by Modest Mouse helped to create a sense of foreboding and tension throughout the movie. I think composer Heather McIntosh did an outstanding job with the score as well. It was subtle yet effective in driving home key emotional moments and underscoring Hutch's internal struggles. Overall, it was one of my favorite aspects of Nobody.
I couldn't agree more, Tom. The soundtrack for Nobody really stood out to me as well. It had a great mix of old and new songs that fit the mood perfectly. The score also did an excellent job at accentuating the film's themes without being overbearing or distracting from what was happening on screen. In my opinion, it was one of those rare instances where every aspect came together to create an immersive and engaging experience for viewers like myself. So kudos to everyone involved in choosing and composing the music for Nobody.
Well, said Tim, the soundtrack definitely played a crucial role in elevating Nobody from being just another action thriller to something more memorable and enjoyable. It's always great when all aspects of filmmaking come together seamlessly like that, creating an experience that resonates with audiences long after they've left the theater or turned off their screens at home. So let me ask you this. What are some other movies or TV shows where you felt the soundtrack made a significant impact on your enjoyment of them?
Well, Tom, that's an interesting question. There have been quite a few films and TV shows over the years with excellent soundtracks. Off the top of my head, some of my personal favorites include 1. The Big Lebowski, the film's eclectic mix of classic rock, country, and jazz tracks perfectly captures the movie's laid-back vibe while also adding an extra layer of humor and charm. Guardians of the Galaxy. The movie's soundtrack was such a huge hit that it even outsold some of the biggest artists at the time. It perfectly encapsulates the film's retro futuristic aesthetic while also providing an awesome backdrop for all those epic space battles and chases. 3. Stranger Things. The show's 80s nostalgia extends not only to its visuals, but also to its music choices, which are absolutely spot on throughout all 4 seasons. From synthwave classics to lesser-known gems from the decade. Every track feels like it belongs in the world of Hawkins and its residents. For Baby Driver, Edgar Wright's love letter to car chases and music, has one of the most impressive soundtracks in recent memory, featuring an eclectic mix of old school and hip-hop tracks that perfectly sync up with each thrilling set piece. 5. The Grand Budapest Hotel. Wes Anderson's quirky style translates well into music as well. The film's soundtrack is a perfect blend of old school jazz and classical pieces that fit the movie's vintage feel perfectly. So, Tom, any other movies or TV shows you can think of where music plays such an important role? Well, Tom, those are definitely some great examples of films and TV shows where the soundtrack played a significant role in enhancing the overall experience. Now, let's talk about the actors and their characters in Nobody. As we mentioned earlier, Bob Odenkirk did an excellent job portraying Hutch Mansell. He brought a sense of vulnerability and determination to his character, making it easy for viewers to empathize with him throughout his journey. Christopher Lloyd was also fantastic as Yulian Kuznetsov. His menacing demeanor combined with an air of unpredictability added an extra layer of tension to the film.
I completely agree with you, Tim. Both Bob Odenkirk and Christopher Lloyd brought their A game to Nobody, elevating what could have been a generic action thriller into something much more engaging and entertaining. The chemistry between them was palpable, and it really helped to drive home the stakes of Hutch's situation. Additionally, I thought that the supporting cast did an admirable job as well. Connie Nielsen was particularly memorable as Linda Mansell, Hutch's wife, who displays incredible strength and resilience in the face of danger. Alexei Serebriakov also impressed me with his portrayal of Pavel, Yulian's right-hand man. He brought an intensity that helped to ratchet up the tension throughout the film.
Absolutely, Tom. The supporting cast played a crucial role in making Nobody feel more than just another run of the Mill action flick. Each character had their own unique arc and contributed significantly to the overall narrative. I also have to mention as Hutch's friend and confidant, whose wise counsel helped guide Hutch through some of his toughest decisions. The film did a great job balancing its ensemble cast without any one character overshadowing another.
Well, said Tim. Now let me ask you this. While we both enjoyed Nobody for what it was, an entertaining action thrill ride with some great performances and an excellent soundtrack, do you think there's room for improvement? Are there any specific aspects of the film that you would have liked to see handled differently? Or perhaps certain elements that could have been expanded upon further?
That's a good question, Tom. While I did enjoy Nobody overall, there are some areas where I feel they could have done better. For example, I think the motivations behind Yulian Kuznetsov's vendetta against Hutch could have been explored in more depth. It seemed to be driven primarily by revenge and a desire for power, but there could have been more nuance to his character that would have made him feel more three-dimensional. Additionally, I thought the film could have benefited from some slower-paced moments to allow for further development of Hutch's relationships with his family members beyond just providing emotional support or serving as plot devices.
That's an interesting point, Tim. While I agree that there could have been more depth to Yulian Kuznetsov's character, I also think that the filmmakers made a conscious choice to keep him somewhat enigmatic and mysterious. It added an extra layer of intrigue and kept the audience guessing about his true intentions throughout the movie. As for slowing down certain aspects of the story or developing Hutch's relationships with his family members further, I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, I feel like that might have detracted from the overall pace and tone of Nobody. The film was always intended to be a fast-paced action thriller, so perhaps deviating too much from that formula could have backfired.
Well, Tom, I understand your concerns about maintaining the pace and tone of Nobody. However, I also believe that striking a balance between action and character development can elevate a film to new heights. Take, for example, the John Wick franchise, which manages to blend intense action sequences with meaningful character moments that deepen our understanding of its protagonist while still delivering an engaging viewing experience. In my opinion, nobody could have benefited from similar treatment. It would have made Hutch's journey more relatable and emotionally resonant for the audience.
I see your point, Tim. While I agree that finding a balance between action and character development can be challenging, particularly in films like Nobody, which are heavily reliant on its genre conventions, there is always room for improvement. It's interesting to consider how some of those changes might have affected the overall experience of watching the movie. Perhaps future installments in this franchise could explore these ideas further and find ways to strike that delicate balance between thrills and character development more effectively.
Indeed, Tom, Nobody certainly left room for interpretation when it came to its characters' motivations and relationships. So who knows? Maybe we'll see a sequel or even a spin-off exploring some of these themes further. In any case, I think it's safe to say that we both enjoyed the film despite our reservations about certain aspects of its execution. What did you think about the direction of Nobody? Did you feel like it effectively captured the tone and energy of an action thriller while also maintaining a sense of cohesion throughout the story?
Well, Tim, I thought that the direction of Nobody was generally solid. Director Ilya Naishuller did a good job keeping up the pace and delivering some pretty impressive action sequences. The use of shaky cam during the fight scenes was effective in creating a sense of chaos and intensity, but not to the point where it became too distracting or nauseating. I also liked how he used color palettes to differentiate between scenes set in the present day and those featuring flashbacks or dream sequences. Overall, I felt that Naishuller successfully captured the tone and energy of a classic action thriller, while still managing to infuse it with some unique stylistic flourishes here and there.
Absolutely, Tom. The color palette choice was particularly interesting in Nobody, as you mentioned. The predominantly cold, desaturated colors used for the present-day scenes contrasted nicely with the warmer, more saturated hues employed during Hutch's flashbacks to his past life as an assassin. This visual storytelling technique helped to emphasize the stark differences between these two sides of his character and added depth to the overall narrative.
I couldn't agree more, Tim. The use of color in Nobody was definitely one of its strong points. It not only looked visually appealing, but also served as an effective storytelling tool, enhancing our understanding of Hutch's character and the world he inhabits. In conclusion, while there are certainly areas where Nobody could have been improved upon, I still believe it's a solid entry into the action thriller genre that manages to deliver on its promises: excitement, suspense, and some memorable performances from its cast.
That's very true, Tom. While the action and suspense were certainly key components of Nobody's success, I think it's also important to consider how the film resonated with audiences on a cultural level. The themes of identity, family, and redemption are universal, and I believe that these relatable aspects contributed greatly to the film's widespread appeal. Additionally, the unexpected twist at the end left many viewers talking about the movie long after they had seen it, which is always a good sign for any piece of entertainment.
Absolutely. The cultural impact of Nobody cannot be understated. Not only did it deliver on the action and suspense fronts, but also tackled deeper themes such as morality, mortality, and the consequences of past actions in a way that felt both relatable and engaging. I think one of the reasons why this movie connected with audiences so well is because it featured a protagonist who was flawed yet ultimately redeemable, someone we could root for despite his checkered past as an assassin.
That's an interesting perspective, Tom. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms before. It seems that audiences are increasingly drawn to complex characters with shades of gray rather than the traditional black and white heroes and villains we used to see in films. This willingness to empathize with characters who have made mistakes or have questionable past is refreshing, as it allows us to explore deeper themes without being preached to.
I couldn't agree more, Tim. As filmmakers and storytellers continue to push boundaries and challenge conventional narratives, it's heartening to see audiences embrace these kinds of stories with open arms. And while Nobody may not have been a groundbreaking masterpiece in terms of its themes or execution, it certainly did an admirable job of tapping into the zeitgeist and delivering an enjoyable, thought-provoking experience for viewers everywhere.
Exactly, Tom. It's important to remember that not every film needs to reinvent the wheel in order to be successful or significant. Sometimes all it takes is a well-executed concept, compelling characters, and some good old-fashioned entertainment value to capture people's imaginations and leave them talking long after the credits have rolled. I think Nobody is a testament to that idea. It may not have been perfect, but it's certainly delivered on its promise as an engaging action-packed thriller with something more beneath its surface if you're willing to look for it.
Very well, said Tim. It's clear that Nobody left quite the impression on both of us, even if we didn't always see eye to eye on certain aspects of the film. But isn't that part of what makes discussing movies like these so enjoyable? The ability to share our thoughts and opinions with others while also learning from their perspectives? I think it's safe to say that we can both agree on one thing. Nobody is a movie worth talking about.
Indeed, Tom. It's been a pleasure discussing Nobody with you today. Despite our differences in opinion about certain aspects of the film, I think we can both agree that it's an engaging thriller that manages to keep viewers on the edge of their seats while also exploring deeper themes like morality and redemption. As film enthusiasts ourselves, it's always interesting to see how different perspectives can shape our interpretation of a single work.
Absolutely, Tim. I think that's one of the things that makes discussing movies so much fun. We all bring our own unique experiences and viewpoints to the table when analyzing these works of art. And speaking of analysis, I have to say that your insights into the use of color in Nobody were particularly fascinating. It really highlights how important visual storytelling can be in enhancing our understanding of character development and thematic elements within a film.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate your kind words. And with that said, we've reached the end of our discussion on Nobody. Before we go, we'd like to encourage all of our viewers out there to share their thoughts on the film in the comment section below. Did you agree or disagree with any of our points? What did you think about the performances? And most importantly, what did you take away from this thrilling experience? We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely, Tim. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and give us a thumbs up or leave a comment letting us know your thoughts on Nobody. We appreciate all of your support, and we look forward to discussing more films with you in the future. Until next time, happy viewing.